Next guest knows exactly how powerful alternative media can be in getting your message out there. So joining me now is conservative commentator Brilyn Hollyhand, the teenage founder of the Truth Gazette and the host of his own podcast. Brilyn, I'm really excited to talk to you. You're kind of a celebrity around here at After Hours because you've had some major interviews with some very big politicians, very big people. But I first want to start at the beginning. What made you decide to get into journalism at such a young age?
Well, first of all, thank you, Alex, so much for having me on. Thank you for taking the time to do this. I get asked all the time, why I went into politics, why I went into journalism. And I just want to make it clear, I'm a political commentator. I'm not a journalist. I don't claim to be a journalist. And I think that's one of the issues we really have right now in our fake news media world. That's why I started the Truth Gazette, because these propped up political pundits for the Democrat Party claim to be journalists, sitting in their plushy Washington, D.C. studios. But I'm here on the ground as a political commentator. I don't, put the guard up as a journalist. I claim to be a political commentator. That's what we're doing in the Truth Gazette. I started the Truth Gazette in the summer of 2017. It was a small email newsletter. 3 years later, here we are. Like you said, I've done so many incredible interviews. And I know we'll talk more about that in a second. But, it's just really shot off in the alternative media. There was so much grassroots effort, especially with what I'm doing. People are sick and tired of the fake news media telling them what they should believe, telling them what they should think. So I think that's what I'm doing here with the Truth Gazette. My simple goal is to fight the fake news media. And that's what I'm doing every single day.
And we hear that from a lot of people too, and I think it came a little bit with social media as well, because back in the old days, for example, there were a couple news channels, and if it wasn't on that channel that night, you weren't seeing the story at all. Nowadays, we have live events going on, and during that event, we'll see people on social media bringing different perspectives into play, their own opinions as well. So I think we're starting to see a more diverse set of opinions being infused into these conversations that in the past were a little bit more limited. So I do want to talk about some of the interviews that you've done, because you've done some big ones. So I just want to ask right off the top, who is the best interview that you've ever had, and who is your dream interview that you'd like to have?
Absolutely. I've done so many incredible interviews. So many people have taken so much time, to sit down with an 11, 12, 13. I'm now 14, but I've been doing this for 3 years. Probably the most starstruck I was for an interview was when I sat down with Sarah Huckabee Sanders last year in Nashville. That one was just really fun. I worked on that for over a year, even before she was even White House press secretary, trying to get that interview with her. I finally got to sit down. It was really cool. She knew who I was before we even walked in the room. So that was really cool. I also got to do something with Stephanie Grisham when she was press secretary in the West Wing. Wow. I mean, how many people do you hear at 13 years old at the time, sitting down in the West Wing? I interviewed Steve Scalise and Kevin McCarthy the day the articles of impeachment were announced. As a 13-year-old, who else does that? It was absolutely incredible. So honored to do that. But to your point about who my dream interview is, if you've been following the Truth Gazette these past 3 years, my dream interview, my goal with what I'm doing is to sit down with President Donald J. Trump. That's my dream. That's my goal. That's where I want to be someday. I've been working towards, like I said, I've been to the West Wing several times. I've been to the Oval Office before. I've been to the press briefing. I've been that close to the president, but I haven't gotten that interview just yet. So President Trump, if you're watching After Hours tonight, reach out. We'd love to do the interview. We'd love to have you. But that's my dream right there, and that's what we're working towards.
Oh, I know it's just around the corner. I mean, we've been showing pictures of all the people that you have been meeting with. I mean, Donald Trump Jr., Sarah Huckabee Sanders, as you were saying. I mean, the list goes on and on. Dave Rubin, a lot of influential people that aren't just necessarily politicians, but also people who are commentators, who are involved in other realms as well. So that does kind of bring me to my next question as well. We feel like there is a shift away from cable news a little bit. I mean, the ratings reflect it within itself. And a lot of people are going for independent journalists, perhaps like the Truth Gazette, or perhaps just individuals on Twitter or something like that. There's a lot of ways to get information nowadays. So when it comes to that, how do you get your news?
Well, I know, like you said, with the growing age of social media, I used to get a lot of my news from cable news, and I've kind of shifted away from that. Everyday Americans don't always have time to sit and watch cable news all day. They work. So I think social media is the quicker way, with everything going on. It changes 24/7. You can post updates all through the day. So I think I get most of my news from social media. That's where I've been, putting my news out there, and that's how I've been receiving my news as well. And I want to say this real quick. People attack President Trump all the time for being too loud on social media and having such a voice on social media, with Twitter censoring him in the past few weeks. But I just want to say that that's how he can get his message directly to the people, the everyday Americans. And that's how I think I can get my message out. I think social media has given a platform to so many people. It's a voice for the voiceless, so to say. So I think social media is definitely growing into the new news service across this nation. I think we're definitely going to see a rise in social media use over the next few years.
I think you're exactly right. And President Trump, to your point, gets his message across on Twitter. But there's also a lot of good journalists out there who never had their shot at MSNBC or CNN, but did make a career and have developed a very good reputation as a truthful journalist off of a social media platform, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I mean, you can find a journalist who has really carved their own type of platform, if you will, in those realms. But nowadays, you're right. We do talk about a lot of these social media platforms. Twitter is a big one that's in the headlines. As of recently, TikTok is one that's been in the headlines as well. So I know a lot of our viewers are relatively active on social media, but as far as the younger generation, such as yourself, what type of social media platforms do you use? Is it Twitter? Is it Facebook? Things like that?
Absolutely, Alex. To all your viewers listening at home tonight, you can go follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Parler now, the new free speech app that's gaining a lot of momentum. I just encourage you to follow me there. That's why I post my daily content. You can also go to thetruthgazette.com and subscribe to my email newsletter where I send out all those incredible interviews and podcast episodes I've had the opportunity to do. I even have merchandise on there, so you can go buy some Truth Gazette hoodies coming up before it gets cold outside. But yeah, like I said, I think the rise in social media is definitely going to change the political field, especially look, just the 2016 election and I mean 2020 during this quarantine, how President Trump has moved his entire campaign online, is using social media. I think that's definitely going to play a role in the 2020 election, even bigger than it did in 2016. But yeah, all of our viewers can go follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Parler, and we'll see you there.
And we also want to give that website, too. I mean, you can just go to the Truth Gazette. All that information is right there. There's a biography about yourself as well that links to your social media profiles. Brilyn Hollyhand, very impressive at only 14 years old. I know you're going to get that interview with President Trump in the near future, and I look forward to seeing it. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.